Today, we're going to be talking about multiplying and dividing with fractions. So, we have a multiplication problem with fractions here. And multiplying with fractions is extremely easy. You just look at the two numbers on the top of the fraction and multiply them. In this case, 1 times 3 gives me 3. Draw the fraction line, and then you multiply the bottom number of the fractions together. 4 times 7 in this case is 28. And usually you want to check to see if you can simplify this fraction down further. In this case, 3 over 28 is the most simplest form of the fraction. Here's another problem. You might notice this time we're multiplying a whole number with a fraction. Well, we know that we can write any whole number as itself divided by 1 in fraction form. 3 divided by 1 is indeed 3. And then we keep everything else the same. Multiply 3 over 8. And from here on out, it's very similar to the problem we did earlier. We multiply the top numbers of the fraction. In this case, 3 times 3 gives me 9. Draw the fraction line. 1 times 8 is 8. And then we check to see if our fraction is simplified. And indeed, 9 over 8 is simplified. Let's try another problem. Notice how we're dividing by a fraction this time? Well, if you know how to multiply fractions, you also know how to divide fractions. But before we talk about dividing by fractions, we need to understand something called a reciprocal. A reciprocal. A reciprocal basically means you have a fraction. Let's take 1/2, for example. You just swap the top and the bottom of the fraction. So the reciprocal of 1/2 would be 2 over 1. If we have 2 over 3, the reciprocal, once we swap them, will be 3 over 2. So when we divide with fractions, we just multiply by the reciprocal. So we can rewrite 4 as 4 over 1 in fraction form. But instead of division, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second number. The reciprocal of 1 over 12, so if we flip the top and the bottom, we would get 12 over 1. And from here on out, it's very similar to what we've done earlier. We multiply the top. 4 times 12 is 48. Fraction line. And then 1 times 1 is 1. And so our final answer is 48. Here's another one. Notice how we're dividing a fraction by a whole number now? This may look confusing at first, but the process is still the same. You just have to remember three things. The first number stays the same. And then we change the division to multiplication. And then we find the reciprocal of 3. We know that 3 can be rewritten as 3 divided by 1 in fraction form. And to find the reciprocal of 3, we flip the top and bottom. So the reciprocal of 3 is 1 over 3. So then we're going to multiply by the reciprocal of 3, which is 1 over 3. And then from here on out, we just multiply the fractions together. We multiply the top numbers of the fraction. 1 times 1 gives me 1. And then the bottom, we have 4 times 3, which gets me 12.